Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect. In this episode, we're going to be chatting about basically stuff we've been watching lately, including some bigger recent releases, of course, that we're going to get to. We'll get to that in a second. By the way, I'm David Lott. Joining me as always is Bobby Jackson. How's it going, Bobby?
It's going good. How's it going, everyone?
Pretty good, pretty good. Jascha Wilson is also here. How's it going, Jascha?
Hey, everybody. Hey. How's it going?
And right here next to me, but across the screen, is Michelle Hillard. How's it going,
Hi,
Michelle?
everyone. Hello, everybody. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, this is going to be a more laid-back affair, I guess. We're going to just talk about stuff we've been watching lately, but we've all watched a couple things. So we'll start with those first. First being House of the Dragon. Making sure I say that correctly.
House of Dragons, man. Let's just call it what it is.
We've had a whole debate pre-episode about how much have we been calling it House of Dragons and House of the Dragon and what's right.
Right.
Yeah, House of the Dragon over on HBO and HBO Max.
Which is the prequel.
I mean, if you want to be technical, it's HBO presents a Game of Thrones House of the Dragon.
There you go.
Exactly.
If you want to be an asshole about it, I'll be that asshole tonight.
But it's the prequel to Game of Thrones, set 172 years before.
So 172, 176, 200 years, something like
Which
that.
was
Like
quite
that.
specific, like in that
was.
little scroll or whatever it is, like
Yeah.
172 years. Like, who came up with that number? Like, who
There's
decided
dates,
that's what they
man.
wanted to
There's
do?
dates.
Now, before we dig into
George
this,
R. R.
are we talking spoilers for this episode or not? I mean, it seems like apparently everyone and their mom has watched it, but
I feel like we should
Let's
talk
do it.
spoilers.
we're going to talk
Yeah,
spoilers.
let's do it.
All right.
And like you said, everyone has seen it. How much have people seen it? How many people have seen this show? Okay.
Oh, I thought
Was that an actual question for the
Yeah.
I thought it was a
See,
setup for
I don't have the
David.
cue
It's like,
card here with
I was
the
curious to
amount
see
in
who
front of
would
me.
remember, but it is the officially is the
10 million?
most streamed HBO premiere show ever in the history of HBO at like what 10 million?
10.
Yeah, I think it
In the
was
10
history
million?
of ever.
Of ever.
That's a lot, people, and that's just for the opening night. That's just like the first 24 hours of it dropping. That's
Right.
a lot.
But you know
Did
what
you-
the real key is? The real key for this. What's next week going to be? Because
Exactly.
every premiere always has a really strong thing because everybody wants to
Right.
come out and watch. But if the masses say that they didn't really necessarily enjoy it, or they're telling their friends you don't need to watch it, let's see what the fall off is for next week. If it's not a fall off, it's like goes from 10 to maybe 10.5 or 11 million people tuned in. Awesome. I don't think
Yeah.
we're going to get that.
It'll be interesting to see how the second and the third episode get, how many views they get. I mean, yeah, I guess time will tell. But yeah, we should just dive in. So
Did any of you guys have any issues streaming it?
oh yeah,
Like, did you watch it right at the time it dropped, or?
No, I didn't. I didn't watch it right
I
at the
didn't.
time, so that's probably I didn't have any issues with it.
And you
I watched
guys
it
on the
the next
West
day.
Coast did have to wait, even though it sounds like you didn't watch it right when it dropped anyway. But I don't think you got to see it
Is
at
that true?
I heard that from somebody else I know who lives on the West Coast with you guys. That
Oh.
it sounded like they had to wait till 9:00 your time to watch it.
Oh wow.
But I thought that was odd
Right.
since it's on HBO Max. I figured it would just drop it basically
Right.
6:00 your time. But I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, I can't
Interesting.
remember because it's been so long since Game of Thrones was on.
Okay.
I want to say that that's always been the case, that it dropped at 9 p.m. We didn't get that benefit of it being able to watch it at 6 p.m.
Right.
But I could be wrong about that, but I'm fairly certain we still had to wait until 9 o'clock to watch it.
Yeah, something tells me that does sound familiar. Like as it was streaming the original series, it would drop at the time at 9 p.m. across no matter what time zone it was. So it'd be 9 p.m. and then 9 p.m. then 9 p.m. then 9 p.m. But I think towards that last season, especially those last like 2 or 3 episodes, I think they were just like, we're gonna drop it, and it doesn't matter what time zone you're in because it was just so like such must see TV, and everybody had to know how it all ended. I think that at least the last couple of episodes, I think were very like, all right, we're just gonna drop it and hope the internet doesn't explode, which
Right.
it did. But
Yeah, I didn't have any problems streaming it, but the buffer, the stream did like drop in resolution like I think 2 or 3 times.
It did like twice.
It
that
lost
I could,
its
yeah.
4K look just a little bit here and there, and then it would come back. That's the most
No, it's
issue
kind of
we
towards the
had.
beginning, like in the like throne room. I felt like it kind of dropped during one of the throne room shots.
Yeah.
But anyways, so
I will say, out of me, I don't know if we had this conversation on the show, but we definitely had it maybe in the chat of our group chat. There was this tweet that was out there of the different shows that are coming out soon, and this being one of them. And Lord of the Rings, new one, Rings of Power, She-Hulk, Andor, and maybe something else. And I remember, David, we put our numbers in order, and this was our number ones, both. Me and you are on the record as saying that while season 8 had its issues, overall we liked that season. Most of the world disagrees with us.
Yes.
They did not, but we were pretty much simpatico on that. So, right. Where was your anticipation going into this new House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones series, after having season 8 ended however many years ago that it ended?
It was pretty high. I mean, yeah, I won't recap too much, but those last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones could have been better. I didn't hate them. There's things about them I disliked, but overall I thought they were fine. Just maybe a little rushed.
yeah.
I still look at that whole show of Game of Thrones, and I'm very, very happy with the entire journey as a whole. From everything I had been hearing leading up to it, from the filmmakers and from George R.R. Martin himself, it sounded like the closer and closer we got to it, I was getting pretty hyped. So my anticipation was really high. Yeah, I think the thing you were talking about, like I remember, I think I had this in my number one, but it was like, well, this and Andor were really like,
Yeah.
I'm very hyped for Andor as well. And of those shows, it was like, oh man, between this and Andor, it's almost like tied what I was most anticipating versus like the Lord of the Rings show on Amazon, which we can get to that later too, because I did watch that trailer today. I don't know if you guys did. I'll just say quickly, I'm still like kind of, I'm going to watch it because it's Lord of the Rings, but for some reason, I'm just not pumped about it.
This hasn't pulled you in.
No. But my anticipation for this has been pretty high.
Yeah.
To answer your question. You?
So thoughts? Oh, okay. Well, same. I mean, I wouldn't say it's as high as yours. I think I was still not necessarily ready for a new Game of Thrones series, even though we've known that they've been in the works, and this isn't the last one to come out. There's going to be more spinoffs. So the whole idea of it just kind of felt exhausting because it felt like we were just coming out of the other one. So to already start thinking about this one and the other ones that are going to come out this way, it just felt a little bit like too much, too soon. So I think my anticipation level was where it was like, I know I'm going to watch it. So that's all I need really to know. Especially from when I think the first teaser or trailer came out, it didn't really do anything to get me more excited. I don't think I got ever too pumped up on it until like maybe about, I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago that they had dropped almost a final trailer or whatever, is where that one really kind of was like, all right, this looks like it could be really good. This is what I'm hoping that it will be. And it just won't be something that's maybe more derivative and just feels like it's just they're cashing in just to cash in, but they actually have a good story to tell and that it'll be worth investing in week after week. So I think my anticipation level was decent, but not to the level of like super amped and pumped like some of the people who might have been about it.
Right. You guys, Michelle?
I've been looking forward to it. Like I'm excited for it, and I think the timing of it is actually pretty perfect. I feel like the dust is really settled from the original series, and I think people are looking for something that's a little fresher take on the Game of Thrones life. And I mean, for me, like my chosen house that I've chosen is the Targaryen, so I'm very excited about this show.
Jascha, what's your anticipation been like?
I didn't really have much anticipation for this. Like, I honestly, and I think I'm the one person that that I've talked to that is just like, I mean, I guess like it really did feel it feels like a cash grab for sure, and just trying to capitalize on something that people were probably what sounded like, I guess, pining for, especially after the disappointment of Game of Thrones, the season ending with that company notwithstanding. I mean, it just nothing in the show surprised me. Like nothing has surprised me yet with the show. It was kind of predictable. So I was just I watched it. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, it was kind of cool, but I wasn't like biting at the teeth to try and watch it the Sunday night. I thought about it kind of an after effect on Monday morning. I was like, oh yeah, I can watch Game of Thrones because that came out yesterday. Or excuse me, House of the Dragon. That came out last night. So I can watch that today at lunch. And so I did, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. Oh, special effects, blah, 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 Oh, yeah, okay. And it just kind of all just moved right along with no real surprises to me. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, in a little bit. But it was, it's just kind of like, all right, whatever.
Bobby, what'd you end up thinking of it?
So for me, it felt like one of those things where, when you go out and buy some new clothes and you're looking good in them and you felt like they look good in the store and you're wearing them and you feel good in them. And then all of a sudden it's like the middle of the week and you throw on a shirt that's in the back of the closet that you haven't worn in a while, but it still fits so comfortably well. I think that's how the show felt to me. It just was like fitting back into an old pair of shoes or sandals or jeans, whatever the case of clothing may be, that just feels like, okay, I remember this. This is my lounge wear, my comfortable wear. And it just felt like getting back into that Game of Thrones milieu, so to speak, to where it was like, okay, I remember this and I know I'm going to be in for a ride. So a lot of that first episode felt like we're setting the table. We're introducing the new people who are going to be important to this story and giving you a little bit about them right now. So just sort of settle in. We're going to ease you into it, and then we're going to, hit the gates running, as it always tends to do. And while I'll agree with what Jascha's saying in terms of they're not doing anything new. They're not reinventing the wheel, but I'm okay with that as long as there's good storytelling, and knowing that George R.R. Martin's involved and the other people he's assembled around him for this show. I feel like we're going to get that. So first episode, I think, was a good solid start to what I'm hoping is going to be a really good season.
Michelle, what do you think?
No, I enjoyed it a lot. I kind of the same sentiments. I felt like it was kind of getting back to the comfort of the Game of Thrones. It has the same kind of feel, the same kind of middle arcing point of the show at the same kind of time frame it usually seems to happen. Gives us a decent amount of violence in a couple different ways, but it tells the story. It sets the groundwork for what we're getting into with this show, and also for the season itself. And I think it's a good introduction of the cast of characters and kind of gives you a glimpse into their personalities. I don't think we even scratched the surface that much of them, but we've got a good glimpse of kind of how they are. And especially like Matt Smith's character of, what is it, Daemon Targaryen? I have to look.
Yeah.
Make sure I'm not crazy.
Daemon
Targaryen, yeah. I think he probably has the most like revealing personality as the show goes on, and it's interesting to see him with different people and how he interacts with them. But no, I like it. I enjoy the dragons. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing some cool dragon action, because as we're watching the first series, they talk about the fables of old and how they used to, ride them and do different things and adventures with them. And I'm like, that'd be kind of cool to see some of that stuff. Which we might get, we might not get, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I'm happy with it. I didn't think there was anything amazing to this episode that's really like, oh wow, they really broke the mold there, which isn't what I think they were trying to do. They're just trying to reestablish hey, this is what it is. This is where we're going. Welcome back. Different timeline. Same kind of cast of characters in no different time frame. Oh, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I was quite happy with it. Yeah, I mean, the way you put it, Bobby, about it being like kind of fitting back into the old comfortable, almost routine. It really felt like going back to the great parts of Game of Thrones, and a lot happens in this first episode. It was just over an hour, like an hour and like 5 minutes, but I mean, it ended. I was like, man, I feel like a lot went down for even a 1 hour Game of Thrones episode. But this is the kind of I loved it. I thought it was quite good, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season even more so now. No, there wasn't anything about like the end of this episode or anything, some big like reveal, like, oh my god, like what's his name falling from the tower at the end of that first Game of Thrones pilot episode. Nothing like that, but yeah, but no, I thought it was quite good. I enjoyed it. I mean, no, it didn't do anything majorly different for Game of Thrones. It felt like Game of Thrones, but for a show that is now having to introduce us to a whole new cast of characters, even if it is the same world, it can be easy to go, oh, we'll do something in the same world. But with all new characters, you may not really like want to care about these people. But no, I'm immediately interested in the storyline. And I mean, so far, even in that first episode, we've just been at King's Landing, and I don't know how the rest of the show will really play out, how much we'll see the rest of Westeros. So if it really is just going to be kind of King's Landing, kind of centralized, but no, I really enjoyed it.
If I had a bet, I'm sure we'll get some of the Vale and what is the, I can't remember what it's called now, that where the Targaryens live, their actual like their land, a Dragonstone. I'm sure we'll get something from Dragonstone, right? I would think a few things here and there, but I don't know. That could be. I think it'll be interesting to see kind of what lands that they go to. I don't. My hope is that they're not just going to hang out in King's Landing. Although it is cool to be like, oh, look, there's King's Landing. Oh, hey, look, there's the big building that blew up, and I don't know. I was kind of like, oh, look at that. Look at it all kind of shinier than it used to be, than we remember it being. I don't know.
You know what? I will say this, and to be fair, when I first watched Game of Thrones, I didn't get into it right away either. Like, I didn't care. Like, I watched the very first episode, and I was just like, this is dumb. This is boring. I'm not into this. And I just let it, like, I don't know if it was, I think I watched like the first 30 minutes, and everything happened in the last 10 minutes of that first episode because they were setting up so much, like 10 or 15 minutes or whatever it was. So when I first watched that first episode of Game of Thrones, I had to be talked back into going into the show. Like my cousin actually told me, like, no, watch the show. It's good. It's crazy. And I'm like, all right. So I gave it another shot. And then I ended up watching it and enjoying it. So who's to say that's not going to happen this time? Had to simmer with you.
Had to simmer for a little while.
I got it. Maybe I'll watch it a second time. I don't know if I'll watch it a second time. It was a long episode, but we'll see. Like, I mean, as of right now, it's just like, honestly, it was just kind of like, all right. Like I said, nothing surprised me in that episode as to like where they were going with it, anything. And that's what I liked about Game of Thrones, is that I was surprised down to like the smallest detail of like Jamie Lannister getting his hand cut off. Never thought that was going to happen. And then it did. So it's just, I think it's just, maybe it has to warm up to me, but we'll see.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I feel like with this episode, they'd give you just enough of a little bit of the themes, We've got just kind of a soft, like, oh, remember how there was good amount of sex? We'll throw some sex in this episode. Yeah. We'll do that. Like, we'll throw in, like a little family dynamic into it. We'll throw in some just violence just for violence sake. And then we'll throw in some violence that is for storytelling that really like progresses and shows you what the situation's about. And I think it was a good like, oh yeah, that's right. This just does things. And there's just stuff that happens in this that's a little jolting, but it's not like too crazy. It's not as jolting as some other things. I think they're going to build back into that level of like, oh, whoa, they just did that. Holy crap. Okay, I guess we're going there, you know, like I'm sure at some point there's going to be the, oh wow, they just killed Ned Stark kind of moment, you know, and the person you thought this was about. I mean, you know, I'm sure there's going to be some moment somewhere that's going to really be like, a couple moments are going to be like, woohoo, holy crap, they just went there. But I mean, it had a strong start. Like the showrunners were saying in the little thing at the end, you know, the two main scenes, the two really big hype scenes is basically the duel, I can't think of the word now, the jousting that was going on as one kind of battleground simulation. And then, like they said, the childbirth being a whole nother battleground. And that's just a whole, there's just so many layers to that onion, of that birthing scene that I can't even, I'm still trying to wrap my head around, honestly. And it's pretty intense. And, you know, if you think about it, it was not new. Like, men have been making decisions about women's bodies for hundreds of thousands of years. It's what's been done. And, you know, it's for him, you know, for them, it's not only just save the child and make sure there's a child to continue going on and forget about the actual human being that's really going on. It's save the child because it just might survive and it might wind up being, you know, the heir to the throne, the successor. But then it all just kind of goes to crap, and it's like, oh, well, baby lived for like a hot minute and it was dead. Yeah, oh, well, I guess 50-50 shot there. It's like, it was intense. That's a lot to unwrap, I think, in a scene. And then while that's happening, you know, there's a joust that, like, it's slowly getting more intense and more personal, and you're watching it going, I think that dude's gonna kill this guy. Like, holy crap. Oh, no, wait. That dude's going to kill that guy. Wait. I think one of these dudes is going to die. And they're, you know, somewhat pivotal. The one for sure, Matt Smith, is a pivotal character. And the other one remains to be seen if he is or not. But he kind of seemed like it. And I was like, oh, dude, they're really going at it in this. So, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think it had a good jumping off for me.
Anybody?
Yeah, it's definitely a show. Yeah, I just was going to say real quick is just that this is a show that has more on its shoulders than any other show I can ever really think of.
True.
Mostly because of the fact that with Game of Thrones and how much of an appointment watching it was, the water cooler show of the decade, so to speak, that this is now going to have to try and carry on that tradition. And so it's got a lot in terms of eyes on it, and every week how it will be scrutinized and compared to Game of Thrones, and to see if it's living up to that legacy. I mean, if Rings of Power comes out and it doesn't do well, then people will say, well, it's not the movie, so it is what it is. And The Hobbit already failed in that sense in terms of living up to what The Lord of the Rings put out. So It doesn't have that kind of pressure. It has pressure, but not that kind of pressure. And I think that this is going to be the one show that everyone's going to be talking about week to week and weighing in heavily on week to week. So I'm curious to see that discourse as well as the show itself and how it plays out.
Not in my work, water cooler.
Like I said, you know, we have to see how it does next week. If it has just as strong as a return, if it's just even the same 10 million people, I will say, like, all right, cool. But if it has any type of a drop off, that means the masses saw it and they weren't impressed and it didn't hook them. So that means we have at least 3 or 4 episodes before anything really starts to crazy happen. Then I think that might bring people back, because the ones that stay with it will start telling the people that fell off, you got to watch the show. So we'll see.
How many episodes are there right now? 10?
Yeah, it's a 10
I
episodes.
think it's 10 episodes. Yeah.
Yep.
One down, 9 to go.
And not only does it just feel good for me because it's just more Game of Thrones, and I loved Game of Thrones, but also, like, of all the shows now we've been watching for a little while in this kind of comic book movie or fantasy realm, it feels good to be back to a show in this universe.
Fantasy.
That's a heavy, good 1 hour of watching.
Yeah.
Like, so many of the shows we've been enjoying, and a lot of them very good, but there's just not as much there. The seasons are a lot shorter. Appears to be a good full-on 10 episode, 1 hour episode, each.
I mean, you're
kind of
not
show.
wrong. I mean, it's like, hey, like all the shows we watched is like 50 minutes. We're like, cool. And it ends up being like 20 minutes of credits. And like, are you fucking kidding me? Like now we're at like, a 30-minute show. So it's just like, forget it. Like you're absolutely right when it comes to that.
Oh, it's a solid hour of layers of information and depth, and it's a lot, but in a good way.
But speaking of other shows in our wheelhouse, we got the first episode of She-Hulk over on Disney Plus. I think we've all watched that. Mm-hmm. What's who wants to jump in on this one?
Did.
I'll jump out the gate on this one.
Go for it.
I'm a comic book guy, so I'll watch anything that relates to the stuff that I read when I was a kid. And She-Hulk is one of those characters that I enjoyed when I was younger, reading the character and the fourth wall breaking. So obviously this story is changed because it's a character that's in the MCU, so it's not exactly like it is in the comics, but they did retain some of the aspects of the fourth wall breaking as well as the personality of She-Hulk. So what I will say is that this show presents itself as supposed to be sort of like a 30-minute comedy with Ally McBeal type of leanings towards it. And I think for myself, at least within this first episode, the humor I didn't quite find funny. I can see where other people might find it funny, and that's what the hardest thing about comedy is just that you never know how it's going to hit people. And there's always the different types of comedy. There's wacky comedy. There's sort of sitcom relational comedy like Friends or Cheers or whatever, that are kind of like those, or there's those higher elevated types of comedies maybe that you could put like Modern Family or Curb Your Enthusiasm or something like that in those categories. And so this to me feels more like it's somewhere between like a trying to be like a old school 80s 90s type of sitcom. And so I think for me that humor doesn't necessarily land as much. I like it when it's a little bit more clever. So it's maybe not to where I laugh per se, but I can see the humor in it. And I think they go for that sometimes, but it just didn't land properly in this first episode for me. Outside of that, I think what I did like about it was just that I liked the dynamic between her and Bruce, played by Mark Ruffalo, the Smart Hulk. And I really think they have a good chemistry on screen when the two of them are together. And the other thing that I think that if this first episode is any indication for me, while I may not stay for the comedy, what hooks me into the show, I think, will be the revelations you get of stuff that's going on within the MCU that we haven't been able to talk about in either the movies or the other series. This seems like this will be a show that will give you more of a gateway into what's going on in the MCU at large, whether it be through guest appearances or just them talking about different things that are relative to what we haven't been able to see in the movie. So I think that's the thing that I will probably look for most week to week, which isn't necessarily a ringing endorsement for the show itself, but I'm hoping that comes along later on. As far as right now, it's just like it didn't hit me the way it seemed like it hit a decent amount of people that really did enjoy the comedy and the humor. But I'm hoping that it kind of finds its groove for me, at least, even though for other people it already seemed like it worked.
Michelle, what'd you think of it?
I think it comes as no surprise that I have not been excited for this show at all.
I felt like I almost had to force you to watch the episode.
I was very take it or leave it about this show. I'm like, whatever. The trailers looked horrific. It really does the show a disjustice. And I can say that now, having seen the episode. And I can say that I enjoyed the show more than I thought I was going to, but I still didn't like it. And I'm with you, Bobby. I think the humor doesn't really hit for me. It is very middle 90s, Ally McBeal trying to be silly, smart humor, but not quite hitting the mark. And that just doesn't work. Now I say that, and there was probably 2 times I think I really chuckled, but I think it was jokes that Bruce actually delivered. And really not our main character or anyone else that she's interacting with. Which brings me to my one other thing that kind of bummed me out about this episode. I feel like you didn't get to see very much interaction with people we're actually going to be seeing throughout the show. Her coworkers and like her assistant, the paralegal that's there. And you see a little bit of their interaction. They definitely are very close. But yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. Like, I liked what I saw with her and Bruce on, down in Mexico, and it gives you kind of the feels when he's talking about Tony, and you get to find a little more information about certain things, and like you said, I think this show really, they all are kind of catalysts and little like things into like what's the next phase, what's the next thing that's going to happen in the films, and this one really feels almost over the top. Like this is where we're going to go here. 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 And it sounds like every episode is going to be that way. And I'm not sure if I love it to be that in my face about we're kind of starting the next phases in different ways kind of thing. I don't know if I like it or don't like it. I haven't really decided yet. But I think the lead actress is fine. I definitely already enjoy her more in her human form than I do in the She-Hulk form. I really am kind of like, eh. And I think I wouldn't say that I had like, again, I didn't have high expectations. I really almost didn't even want to watch this show. I did not want to watch the show.
I wish I had taken video of just 10 minutes before we were like, all right, we're gonna watch this.
God.
You were like,
I was like,
okay.
I was literally like,
guess we're gonna do this.
Guess we're doing that. Let me get my phone and put my phone down. I guess we're gonna watch it. I think if there was one thing that really I bumped on like almost immediately, and I think it comes off like they did it on purpose, and I'm hoping that they did, but if they didn't, that really sucks. And it's literally the shot of, and I never read these comics. I'll definitely say that. So I don't really know anything about She-Hulk or her like villains that are her main people. But like the villain that comes in at the end of the episode in the courtroom scene, and she does this martial arts Asian flying kick towards her face, and it's like watching the strings kick her foot towards She-Hulk's face, and I'm watching it going, I'm really hoping that's on purpose, because if that's actually the effect and they weren't doing it on purpose, that was the worst stunt / special effects I've ever seen in any Marvel anything. But I'm hoping it was on purpose. So I guess I need more to know if that was on purpose to make that action moment look that sad. Were they trying to recreate the Hulk from the 70s and the 80s? I don't know. I couldn't quite tell.
I mean, personally, I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about. I feel like that was so intentional, over the top, that it's almost like they were trying to do a still shot from like a comic. And that's what they were trying to do. That's what I'm
hoping for.
That's the only thing that would make sense. That's the only thing that would make sense, because I agree it was terrible.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm sorry. I've gone on for a while, but I'm okay with it. I am definitely nowhere near in love with this one.
What do you think, Jascha?
First off, I really did not like the fourth wall break when that first started. Really did not. And I read a little bit of the comic when it first came out years ago, so I get it. It just almost immediately turned me off, so quick. I was just like, I can't with that. That's, and to me, it almost... Yeah.
Can I ask, is it because it felt forced and not as natural as, say, like Deadpool's fourth wall break? Or was it something else?
I don't know if I think maybe the humor just didn't land for me right then and there. It just didn't. I just wasn't on board with it. I just was like, no, that I wasn't feeling it. I just wasn't feeling it. Like, and some of the, some of the humor that they had, it did land. I thought it was kind of funny. I liked the dynamic between Bruce and her. I think she's a fine actress. I don't have any issues with her talent. And I know what they're going for. Like, it's almost the same thing when it came to Miss Marvel for me. It's just like, this show is not for me as a fan. It's not built for me as a fan. Miss Marvel was, while I enjoyed it and I thought it was fine, it was not meant for me. That was for 16-year-old girls or 16-year-old minority girls to get into the MCU and try to bring a wider audience. This is definitely for women, to try and get more women into the MCU, in my opinion. I could be wrong with that. It seemed a little campy, a little corny. I kind of enjoyed it. Like, honestly, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably a 6. Yeah, like a 6 for me. Like, it was just kind of like, all right, this is cool. Like, I enjoyed it.
High.
Yeah, I mean, well, because I would recommend it to people, like, if you like the MCU, because you get to see the dynamic of Bruce and you get to see the dynamic of her. And I really do, like Bobby said, I feel like this is going to plug into a lot of what's to come for the MCU. Because I don't think She-Hulk is going away anytime soon. I think she's going to be a big part of the next phase. I'm not a fan of, I'm still not a fan of the special effects that they did for her. I felt like they were kind of subpar, if you would. Like, they just kind of like, I mean, but at the same time, this is weird to say, but it's like, I kind of get, cutting it corners a little bit when it came to the special effects, because we have to have her a lot in this show. It can't just be her as an attorney, because people are going to complain like they did about Moon Knight. Like, we had a whole episode of Moon Knight where he never turned into Moon Knight. And to me, I think that's absolute trash, because people tune in to see Moon Knight. Like that's the whole premise of the show. So people are going to tune in to see Hulk and She-Hulk, and overall, I thought it was fine. I enjoyed it to an extent. I thought it was, I liked the throwback and the touches and the music to, like, talking about Tony and, all the other Avengers a little bit here and there and stuff like that. And it's kind of forcing her hand to be somebody that she doesn't necessarily want to be, and accepting your responsibility and all the other trash that, comes with being a hero. But, yeah, I mean, for the most part, it was fine. I kind of got on board with it, so it was cool. I'll definitely be tuning in and seeing it again. It wasn't anything that I didn't want to watch, so I'll definitely keep going.
I feel like the second episode is going to weigh heavily on am I going to enjoy any of this, or am I just going to hate absolutely watching every minute of this? I feel like the second episode is going to be very telling. Well, because I feel like right now, you're like, oh, I'm at a 6, and I'm like, I'm at a 5. Basically, like, I could go either direction at this point. And I feel like the second episode is really going to be what sways me. And, like, if the second episode is not good, I'm going to be like, yeah, this show's trash.
And it's like, even with the fourth wall break when she first started, I understood why they did it. So that they can, like, hey, what I missed. What the fuck? Did I say something?
No.
No, it's just David's laughing at Michelle. And
David's laughing at me.
David laughing at Michelle is making me laugh.
I think he's surprised at how hard I'm being.
No, I'm not at all. I'm not at all surprised.
But yeah, like I was saying, it's like, I mean, even with the fourth wall break when they first started the show, like, as much as I hated it, I understood it, because they needed to explain how she got these powers. If they were going to do a whole-on origin story series like they've done before, they're like, let's just jump in, have it dedicated one episode to it, and then we can move on. And I think that's really what this was.
Oh, 100%. That's why I think I'm so, like, the second episode is really going to have to impress me hard. The first episode's almost, not that it's a throwaway episode, but like you said, it's just setting the groundwork for how she got to where she is. Okay, cool. Next, what's the show really going to be about? And I think that's this next episode.
David,
what did you think?
Oh, man, I'm going to be the one guy who actually likes probably the most positive about this show.
Probably.
I never would have guessed it.
Probably.
No way! I don't.
I can
believe
tell.
that for a
I can
second.
tell when the show
Wow.
ended. I was like,
You might
he
have been
liked
one of the
it.
harshest critics about
Absolutely.
the show before the trailer.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. To be clear, I'm not saying I love this show. Just based on all of your reactions, I'm going to sound the most positive. I thought basically like you, Michelle. I thought the trailers looked pretty stupid, and I really had no interest in it. I have no background. I've never read She-Hulk. Know nothing about this character. Absolutely zero, nothing. And I thought the trailers looked pretty silly, and I've been a pretty vocal critic now of the overuse of humor in the MCU. I mean, look at my review for Thor: Love and Thunder, which I hated. I look at the trailers for this show. I looked at the trailers for this show and I'm like, oh God, more humor. I'm like, I just don't. I was not looking forward to this. Did I love this episode? No, but overall, I was entertained by it. I would say I agree though. Like this episode is indeed like all like exposition kind of backstory to how she got to where she is. I have a feeling that basically the show is really starting this week with our next episode, and I will be curious to see how the show plays out from here on out. Because that very last scene, once this episode did kind of go into present time, like this is She-Hulk on a daily basis. That scene in the courtroom, I will agree. I was like, oh, this is probably the worst part of this entire episode, like for sure. And if it's more of that overall, I'm probably not going to be a big fan. But overall, this episode, mostly just the dynamic between her and Bruce Banner, like I enjoyed it. I thought it was, I liked the episode overall. Didn't love it, but I liked it. I thought it was all right.
It's interesting because I feel like this one has the most like cameos that are supposed to be coming up in this series. You know, Wong is going to be in it, so Benedict Wong is coming in to play Wong. And now I can't think of the character's name, but it's from the Incredible Hulk. Is it the Incredible Hulk? Is the one that they're calling the MCU movie?
The Abomination.
The Abomination.
The Abomination. Yeah. So he'll be in it, Tim Roth. Yeah. And somebody else is coming into cameo. Now I can't think of who it is. Daredevil's going to be in a cameo. Like, it's probably the one series of all the MCU shows that has like the most like little cameos going on through it. And I almost question like, again, it's kind of like what Bobby was saying, and what I agree with is that this show seems to be the most like, we're going to give you these cameos to help set up the future things moving forward, you know? And I'm like, and all the shows do that to an extent. I'm not saying that they don't, but this one seems like it's going to be very in your face at how that they are going to be like, this one's going to set up for everything. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah.
And we get 9 episodes.
You know what? I want to add this.
This is like a long show compared to all the other
long
Marvel
one.
shows we've
I know.
got.
Absolutely.
I want to add this, and we've talked about this before, and I think Michelle, you're the one that said it first, and and the idea has stuck with me. The more I see of Wong, the more I want him to have his own show.
Heck yeah!
Because there's so much shit that he didn't blip, so it's like there's 5 years of what he could like going back and just doing whatever and stuff like that. I would love to see a Wong series, just like just
not
to
even
fill in
that,
a
just
little bit
like
of the gaps.
He's been, you know, now I can't think what it's called, but he's had his powers. He's been doing this for a long time. He's apparently, he might possibly be older than what he actually seems to be. Like, he could be much, much older. And he, you know, now he's in charge of the Sanctum. Like, there's a lot more to Wong, and his story, I think, would be really fascinating to find out, like, his origins, and then also adventures he's gone on without any of these people, and things he's had to do to sacrifice to be where he is now, and to see things that he gets sucked into, like to see him on an adventure and then be like, oh, hold on, and he's sucked into, and then we realize, oh wow, that's when he went to go, he had to deal with whole Spider-Man multiverse. Okay, cool. Like, it'd be interesting to see kind of those kind of things too. Yeah, I saw some like tweet or something. I think I sent it to you guys. I think I sent it to you guys in the group and was just like, the more I see Wong, the more I just want Wong to have a show. Just saying.
We just throw him in. It's like this guy is just doing whatever. He's just like, he's like, you want to do Wong again? Fuck yeah, I'll do it. And it's just like, over and over again. And he just shows up and it's just getting better and better every time.
I'm pretty sure Benedict Wong is just kind of like, you want me to go work for a day and you're going to give me how much? Cool. What time? 8?
Yeah.
Be there with bells on.
There.
Thank you. He's all about it. He loves it. It's a great character, too.
Well, Bobby, it sounded like you were going to say one last thing, or are you good on She-Hulk?
Yeah. I was just thinking, with the way we're talking about Wong, and I was like, I really think if he had his own Disney Plus show, it would probably be about him being like the headmaster of the sorcery school that he does, and he teaches the students, and some of those.
That sounds fascinating.
Going on adventures and stuff.
entertaining.
Yeah, I think it'd be something like that.
It'd be so cool. I would be very down with that. Whereas like She-Hulk, I'm like, whatever. Okay, I guess I'll watch the show.
We're almost out of time, but real quick, are there any other things you guys have watched lately you want to talk about really quick? Jascha, you have anything you wanted to?
I saw Beast with Idris Elba.
Oh,
okay.
Where he punches a lion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want
That
to fuck
happens.
with Idris Elba. I'm just telling you right now. You don't want to bring it. You don't want to bring the pain because he's punched a lion. Yeah, and that's a real thing. That's a real scene in the movie that happens.
Yeah, it happens. It's in the trailer.
And also has one of my favorite actors. I don't talk about him a lot just because I don't think he gets a lot of role or a lot of play. But he's so talented. Sharlto Copley is so good in everything that he does. Everything I've seen him in, he just crushes it. Movie was relatively entertaining. It's super cheesy, but it was a little campy. I mean, the guy, like we said, he punches a lion. Like, pretty sure, like, with a lot of what was going on in that scene, like, he would have died. Like it was just like it's pretty gnarly. Like it's pretty gnarly. It's just like he's like crack, and it's like, did he just punch a lion? Like, is that really what's happening right now? Like, all right, cool. Not really a thing, but all right, but it was it was fun. It was entertaining. I like Idris Elba. I think he's good to his fans, so I didn't mind supporting him that much. So. It was chill, I don't recommend, you don't need to go see it in the theater, but you can, see it at home.
It was a nice escape from like focusing on things in life that are happening kind of film.
I mean, what happens, you expect to happen. There's no surprises in this movie with what's going on. Like, you can pretty much, the foreshadowing is like really strong, like within 5 minutes of the film. You're just like, oh, okay, I get it. Here we go.
Do any of you guys feel like Hollywood is setting Idris Elba up to be like a Liam Neeson kind of actor? Like, the man can act and he can do good things, but maybe we should give him more action-y things to do. And they're kind of trying to convert him in that kind of a way.
I would have thought that after Hobbs and Shaw, if you asked that question after Hobbs and Shaw, because that was ridiculous. And I would have said, yeah, he's definitely on his way to being that, but I don't necessarily feel like that anymore. And the movie, it wasn't like he was a huge action star in this film. He was more of the concerned father, but it was fine. It was what it was.
Anything else? Just that?
I watched Day Shift. I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch that with Jamie Foxx.
I've
Snoop
seen
Dogg.
it in the scrollings I've been doing. I've seen
Snoop Dogg
And Franco,
Dave
Franco.
Dave. Yeah, that's his name,
Dave.
Yeah.
It was okay. I mean, it's what you would have expected.
You could take it or leave it.
Yeah, it was what you think it was. It's exactly what you think it was. So, I mean, it was all right. The vampire fight scenes were outrageous.
I did watch that too, and I will say that this for me felt like a Netflix movie should feel. It definitely didn't seem like it was on the level of something you would want to be in the theater watching. It felt like it was suited for Netflix, and the director, his name is J.J. Perry. He was a stunt choreographer and a stuntman before, so the action scenes have a certain sort of flair to it, which I thought worked really well for this film. And if you go
Yeah.
in expecting an over the top movie that knows that it's over the top and it's just sort of there to just be kind of entertaining, I think that's what you'll get out of it too. Because I felt like after watching it, I was entertained for the runtime of the movie, and it didn't take itself seriously. And I didn't either, so I think that helped me be entertained by the movie. And if they put out another one or a spin-off of some of the other characters in it, I'd watch it because I was entertained by it.
No, I feel the same way. I mean, that's really, it's, it definitely belongs on Netflix. It definitely belongs on a streaming service. It's a popcorn movie. Like at best, you just sit there and just kind of like tune out and enjoy the special effects and the story that kind of takes you from point A to point B. But it wasn't anything to like, oh my God, you have to watch this movie. It's so cool. It's like, yeah, this was fun.
Bobby, you watch anything you wanted to talk about?
Was Jascha finished? I didn't know if he had anything else.
I got a chance to watch Prey. I don't know if we talked about that or if I got a chance to talk about that.
We haven't talked about it yet.
Okay. I watched Prey. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I did like it. I thought it was I read an article that kind of summed up my feelings, and it was just talking about how this was a very strong throwback to how the Predator was when Arnold was at the helm. And it was interesting. It was fun. I really liked it. I really liked all the little Easter eggs that they put in there, talking almost like foreshadowing, what's to come of this species and stuff like that. And I've always kind of enjoyed the Predator movies, even some of the ones that they put out, the ones even with Adrian Brody. I really liked that one, even though they're kind of corny. Actually, I didn't really like the last one that they did with the Predator or whatever it was called, where they had the giant, massive Predator thing. That one was a mistake, in my opinion, but. This one was really good. It was fun. A lot of talented young actors in this film. I hope that they get work in other fields and other roles. But I mean, I would definitely watch another Predator movie if they did it with the same tone that they did with this one.
Nice. I've heard nothing but good things about that one.
What's that? Everybody was talking about one.
I was just saying that I've heard nothing but good things about Prey. That was all I was saying.
Yeah, it's directed by Dan Trachtenberg, and he so far has impressed me with the things that he's chosen to do. So I'm hoping he gets more eyes on him to direct some bigger things in the future, because I think it would be in good hands. He comes from a very good geek background and everything, so I think he understands the materials that he works on and does a good job with it. And this not being an exception, I think if anything, they could have called this Predator Back to Basics, because it really just feels like a throwback to that first movie. They're just not trying to do anything extravagant and just trying to really boil it down to, this is a predator and it hunts and let's go. and it does that, and it does it very well. So yeah, I would absolutely like to see more. And now I will say, internet, please cut it out with all the different scenarios of predator versus ninjas, predators versus gun,
sweet Jesus,
like gunmen in the old South. And it's like, it's okay. You're just going to do variations of what we've already done. So you guys still be creative if you're going to come out with more of these, but this one was a good watch, and if you have Hulu, you should absolutely check it out.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing,
who's next?
The only thing I was going to say was that I watched. I've sadly only got to see one episode of the Sandman, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I really want to try to find some more time to really watch that series, because I'm hell of impressed, and I'm very much into it, and I hope other people would get into it too.
I've watched some of that.
What'd you think?
I mean, it's kind of good. It's I don't want to say kind of good. It's good. It's just we've talked about this before, Bobby. Like when it comes to like you're into a show and you like the show, but you're just not drawn back to necessarily see where it goes. You don't have any issues with it. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Like I've enjoyed the show. I've enjoyed watching it so far, but I do find that it is really a story that you have to pay attention to while it's going on. I don't have any issues with it other than there's really no hook. I haven't watched an episode in probably a week and a half, and it's just like I'm like, oh, I could watch this. It's like, but I haven't caught up on Hell's Kitchen, so let's watch that instead. Or Master Chef is on, so I need to pay attention to that. And it's just I just haven't have a hard time with. I just haven't found the desire, the really burning desire to go back and watch this show.
I have seen the whole thing, and they added a bonus episode this past week or maybe a few days ago, and that was good as well. And I enjoyed the series top to bottom. Episodes 5 and 6 are my favorite, like most people. I had only listened to the audio book of the first volume not too long ago before the series came out on Netflix. So I never read the comics back in the day, but enjoyed the audio version of it. So was looking forward to the series, and it does such a really good job of translating that material. And Neil Gaiman being hands-on with this series, you expect it to be of a certain quality, and it definitely is. So I'm hoping that if they do get a second season, that Netflix will pick it up. If not, then I think he did say that he is allowed to shop it elsewhere. So I'm really hoping that this series gets more seasons as it goes along to tell more of the stories. And it gotten to a point where I think I would need to listen to the second volume on Audible to be able to know what's ahead, because where this first season ends, I think is probably about where the first volume or so ends of the Sandman series. So I'm looking forward to more for sure.
Nice.
Anybody got
is it my turn, I guess, to go with some
Go
stuff?
for it.
It's all
What
you.
you got?
Well, we covered a decent amount of the things that I watched with me and Jascha, and so I think just a few other things that I had a chance to watch. One is on what was it on Amazon Prime? Called 13 Lives, and directed by Ron Howard, and it's about the group of young soccer players in Thailand that went into a cave, and the cave got flooded.
Yeah.
And so it's a real life story, and it's a dramatization movie based on that with Viggo Mortensen and Colin Farrell and Joel Edgerton. And I never saw the documentary about it, but I hear it's really good. But this movie I thought does a really good solid work in terms of giving you the how difficult it was to really get them out of this cave. And it does a really good job of showing some of the scenes in terms of how narrow some of these enclaves were, and the twisting and how they had to get these kids out. It's pretty well told, and I thought, Ron Howard, he's just sort of one of those guys that you can just trust will tell a solid story. It may not be always the person you turn to for the best cinematography of, all the auteurs out there, but he always puts in solid work. And I think this is another one to add to his resume of another good, solid story that he was able to tell. Let's see. What else did I watch? I watched this movie called Fall. It's in the theaters.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about these two girls that go hiking up a TV tower near Sacramento. And it's sort of like there was an incident that happened on a hike, a mountain hike, and it kind of left both of them devastated. So a year or two later, they're going back and trying to get back into things and rekindle their friendship by hiking this tower. And I think this movie does a really good job of capturing just how high up they are and the feeling of vertigo and just that edge of your seat because you don't know what's going to happen. This the type of movie that I would put in the category of, I don't even know what you would call them, but it feels like if anyone out there had saw Open Water or some of those movies where it's just like these people having to survive these very horrendous and crazy scenarios. this is that type of movie. And I think that if anyone's in the market for that kind of movie, they would really enjoy this. I thought it did a good job of creating tension and just having this aspect of feeling like you're a little bit breathless as they show some of these scenes of how high up they are. And almost like in Mission Impossible, I think it was maybe Ghost Protocol, when Ethan's out on the window in Dubai, it has that kind of feeling to it almost the whole time. So if you're not like a fan of that, you might not want to go see this movie though.
Yeah, I saw the trailer in front of Nope, and I was sitting there in the theater going, nope, 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 nope. No, I'm good, thank you. No thanks.
Yeah,
not that
you can
it looked
tell
bad.
by the trailer if this is something you would want to see or not.
Yeah, it's not that I think the film looked bad. It was mostly just like, I don't know if I could sit through an hour and a half to 2 hours of that kind of level of anxiety and stress. Like, I don't think I'd be able to handle it.
Yeah, I it's definitely not for the faint of heart, for sure.
Did you look up to see if this is practical effects or what?
No, I didn't. I don't know how they did it, because it's impressive whatever they did to do it, because it looks for real. And I imagine they had to have had some level of digital mixed in with practical, because you just can't fake some of this stuff, it seems like. Or if they did an excellent job of faking it. But it looks really well done. And the last thing I have to talk about is the movie called Vengeance, written, directed, and starring BJ Novak of The Office fame. And this is about a guy, BJ Novak. He plays this guy who's a writer, but he wants to get into podcasting, and he's trying to tell one of these sort of maybe a look at America and through the lens of something. And he gets this call from a character played by Boyd Holbrook that this girl that he was involved with died, and so he has to go to Texas. He ends up going to Texas for her funeral, but really he only knew this girl for like a few dates. But they get this impression that they were something more than that. So within him being in this town, he gets wind from her brother that she didn't just die of natural causes, that someone did something. So he gets involved in this whole murder mystery kind of thing. And it becomes this big kind of involvement in his life. And you see how things sort of unravel from there. And I'll say that it was really good. I don't know what other things BJ has directed or written, but I think he did a really good job with this movie. I thought it does a good job of taking a look at society and the things that we tend to value and hold dear, and really gets in a way of having that commentary about it without quite beating you over the head with it. And one of I think my favorite character in this, oddly enough, I got to look up the name because it's escaping me all of a sudden, but it was just one of those things where, you know how sometimes a character or an actor does something, you kind of pigeonhole them in that position, and you don't really think of them outside of that. Well, Ashton Kutcher plays a character in this that I thought he did such an amazing job with, that it was just like, wow, I didn't even know he could do that kind of thing. But overall, I really, really, really enjoyed the movie and would suggest it to others out there.
Yeah, BJ's been doing a lot of writing. He's written I want to say he's written 2 books on just different topics. Kind of one is a comedy, like perspective and looking at things, but he's also been helping to be a joke writer for some stand-up comics that are out there right now too. So I know he's just been doing a lot of writing, and then he obviously wrote the screenplay, and so he's just been writing away, that little BJ.
Yeah, he's good.
Well, with that, I think we're going to wrap things up. As always, we'd love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. You can email us with your questions and comments at feedback@flickereffect.com. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave any questions or comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we post any videos in the future. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter at @flicker_effect. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Jascha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for listening and watching. Bye, everybody.